I'm questions, whatever, same thing for us. Everything's good. We've been fortunate. We've stayed healthy. We just need a lot of reps. We're just working hard to get them.
What have you seen from your running back so far? It's kind of an interesting blend with some young guys coming up, a veteran coming in, everybody kind of learning, I assume, still at this point.
They're all getting quite a few reps, and a lot of reps, and rotating them through. And so, I mean, I like what I see. I see development with the young guys, and then, you know, Elijah comes in and gives us a little bit more from a maturity standpoint, and we're doing well. So we're just getting them a lot of reps, and they seem to be doing very well.
Elijah's the guy that's been through, you know, he's been through being kind of a main guy. He played behind a guy that's doing really well in the NFL right now. He's kind of seen a lot. Does that translate pretty well too?
I think so. He's very mature. The one thing that I've appreciated with the new guys coming in, I talked a little bit last week, is it's the first time really you have veteran guys that are 22, 23 years old that at a new school, and their excitement level is high because they want to be here. They chose to be here. And I think he's a good example of that. He's always in a good mood, always smiling, always at the office. So, you know, I'm excited to watch him develop.
Coach's clinic on Saturday, and I had several of the high school coaches ask me, how would you compare the practices this spring with practices last spring? And I hadn't really thought of it. They were here last spring for Coach's clinic, and the two I talked to, which I respect quite a bit, said, I like this team better, the way they practice.
The enthusiasm and level is higher. I said that last week, and the only thing I can attribute to is so many more new players that are mature. Not as many young new players. Like in the past, at semester, you're bringing in 4 or 5 high school players. So they're not going to really be vocal. I mean, they're just trying to figure it out. And there's so many more veteran players that have come in here that are older, and it makes a difference.
From a talent standpoint, have you been able to determine at this point where you think you are in that regard?
I think we've, I mean, you know, I'm a little bit leery to say, but I mean, we're every bit where we should be, and where we would be if the portal didn't exist, in my opinion. But we'll see.
Coach, I've kind of got a long-winded question for you, not related to spring ball, but you, unlike a lot of other coaches on this campus, have had the chance to recruit potentially a family member, someone you've grown up watching, and I was curious, you know, you've got the chance to coach your son here. Mm-hmm. I was just curious kind of what was that recruiting process like, and how different is it when you're recruiting a family member compared to just a normal athlete at a different high school?
Well, first off is I sleep with Gunner's mom, so that gives me a fighting chance right there. Sometimes, if I'm allowed. And, you know, Gunner was different. Gunner from day one said he wanted to come to Oklahoma State. There was not really much recruitment. He grew up here, wanted to be here, and so there really wasn't much recruiting involved. He went and visited a couple schools, but it's an adjustment. You have kids yet?
No, sir.
If you ever do have kids, you'll understand what I'm saying, because the difficult part of parenting is letting your kids fail and letting them grow from failure, which makes them better in the long run. But that's not easy to do, and I would say it's the same thing here so far with Gunner, I stay out of it, and I let him fail and then fix it, and Coach Rattay helps him. That would be the best illustration of what it's like, in my opinion.
How do you kind of balance the coach and father figure now that he's on your team and at a prominent school?
We don't talk much football outside of being in the office. Like, he'll come by and watch tape. Sometimes he'll come in my office because I have all the video set up. It's easier for him. He knows where all my Cokes and waters and food is, so he just goes in there. Now, generally I'm not in there. That's at night. So sometimes in passing we'll have those discussions, but if he comes to the house for whatever reason, like a typical college kid, bring his laundry home to his mom or want to eat, we don't talk about football, just because I want to give him that privacy and that space.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
How are the quarterbacks looking?
They're doing good. Bowman is what I thought Bowman was. He's acting very mature, handles himself extremely well. We're rotating him in with all 3 groups, never says a word, has ability to avoid rush, move around good, and make a play. So when I was evaluating him the other day, very similar to Spencer, except Spencer chose to make plays with his legs. So far, Bowman's choosing to make plays, buying himself time and using his arm. Rangel is, really both Gunner and Rangel are progressing like you would think freshmen would moving into their next year, redshirt freshman or freshman. Just maturity, getting it, seeing things they didn't see a year ago. The game has slowed down for them. And then Zane's done good. Zane is showing us what we thought he was last year. Very athletic, very powerful arm, but he's trying to figure it out. You can imagine there's a lot going on for him.
That's a position where leadership is kind of expected. Allen, being a guy coming into all this new thing, how have you seen him adjust to that aspect of it?
Well, that's what I was saying, very mature. And what I meant is his leadership and the way he handles things. I think, is he in his 5th or 6th year? Sixth. And things don't bother him at practice. If he makes a bad throw or does something he shouldn't, he just goes on down the road. He doesn't let it bother him at all. So it's just that maturity that he's bringing has been really nice to watch in practice.
Switch to the 3-3-5. Obviously, you'll have some of that. How big does that make Kendall and what he can do in that scheme?
Well, this defense is, as we move forward, we're basing out of an odd front now. We're starting, in fact, this week in our even front. But that position where he's at in the middle of the field is very important. I don't have any experience in this defense. The coaches that I talk to that have experience in it stress the importance of that particular position that you're referring to. And so I went back and looked some. The best example for us, and the best video I have, is to evaluate Iowa State, because they're very similar. And this is just me, I don't know, you can ask them, they might tell you I'm crazy, but they hang their hat on that guy a lot. And when that guy plays good, they're really good. When that guy, maybe the starter was injured and the next guy wasn't as good, it wasn't nearly as fun.
How much has Ollie Gordon changed from this year in spring ball to last year when he had him play?
With Ollie, we'll see more when it gets really physical, because that's the adjustment he has to make. The physicality of taking hits and staying in there, taking hits and staying in there. And that's going to start this week. We got acclimated last week with pads and stuff, that there'll be more contact over the next 2 to 3 weeks than what he's been accustomed to. And as he adjusts to the physicality, which he should be fine, but he has to do that, and he hasn't proven that to us yet. We haven't given him that chance yet, so we'll see over the next few weeks.
It was a disappointment not to have Jaden most of last season. Mm-hmm. But are my eyes playing tricks with me, or he looks like he's gotten bigger? He looks like he's really developed.
Yeah, he's a young guy that's developed his body, and so he's getting quality reps now in practice and carrying the load. He's doing a good job in the inside drill, which is a tough drill for a running back, and he's carrying the load and making some plays. And I see him as a potential third down back, and as he develops through the spring and summer and in August, we'll see if he can be a 3-down back. I think so, but right now with his ability to protect and catch really well, he gives us an extra benefit on third downs.
How much does the level of experience within the linebacker position give you?
What about it?
The level of confidence within experience within the linebacker.
Well, Xavier's been really good right now, and I think he's settling in. And then, obviously we have a group of young guys that haven't played much that are developing, and then bringing in Justin. Colin has slid out to the stand-up. So the maturity there goes back to what I said earlier about bringing older guys in. It seems to help lift the effort and the commitment that position has. As Nick and Jeff and those guys develop as young players. Their bodies are ready now. Let's just see how they can develop mentally.
Obviously, Colin's played on the edge his first 2 years here. I mean, is there anything in particular you're expecting out of him moving out to the line?
I'm excited about watching him. Nothing different now than the first day we met. This is a good position for him. It's a good position for us that he's in this spot. So it's good for both. We can rush him just like we did last year. We can move him around just like we did over the last couple years. But he's the extra guy. He's the guy that's going to stand up and be out there in the perimeter, and we should be able to use his ability to do some different things throughout the season.
After first week in Pats, how do you feel the offensive line is adjusting to these
I thought they had a good week. This defense is an adjustment for them. There's a lot of flies all over the place, and so you have to identify which ones you want to go after, and hope the ones you go after are the ones that are playing run and not pass. So they've done well. We've really stressed the physicality with them. They're accepting that. We're not there. As you guys watched us the last couple years, we have a lot of work to do in our physicality to be able to rush the football. And they're aware of that. They understand the importance of it. And they're working toward it. But it's not going to be accomplished over the next 2 weeks. I need it to get accomplished by halfway through August.
How do you adjust that mindset-wise?
I just tell them the truth. And it's also not their fault. A lot of what we do here, as we've changed over the last 4, 5, 6 years, didn't stress the physicality on them that we had my first 12 or 14 years here, where we stressed it. A lot of it based on play calls, sets, formations, tight ends, fullbacks, a lot of different things. So most of the time in life we get what we ask for, and we started to lean more toward or started to get away from physicality based on our concepts and schemes. And so now we have to find what's the best way to get good concepts from schemes, be able to exploit defenses with our skill, but also what we've learned is if we lose our physicality, it's not fun. So we told them the truth, and we also took the blame. I took the blame. But now I need the adjustments to take place.
Is that become natural a little bit more so for Charlie Dickey because he did so much because that was so much of what they relied on?
Yeah, he came in and adjusted to us. Now we need to revert back to what some of he's done in the past. But I don't want to go all the way there. I want to find a happy medium. I think we can do it. We're going to find out. But we need to rush for 150 yards a game next year, unless we're just playing somebody that's playing pure man and we don't have that opportunity. But in a normal apples to apples situation, we need to rush for 150 yards a game.
Jaden Bray was never really fully healthy, it seemed, last year. What has this spring meant for him?
Well, he hadn't been healthy in 2 years, and it's been really unusual. What he went through last year it's hard to explain, but it is what it is. He's one of those guys that we need him to stay healthy. He's doing good right now. And if so, then he'll just get bigger and stronger and faster. And he's a basketball guy. Figured out his junior year, the end of his junior year, that hey, I should probably play football. I'm not going to be 6'8", and so it takes a little bit of time. But his competitive nature and his willingness to try and be physical is good. Now we just need to keep him healthy and let him develop.
Coach, outside of quarterbacks, new guys consisting of freshmen transfers, who has impressed you the most on offense or defense or even both?
Of all the transfers?
Transfers or freshmen that have came out.
Well, Zane has done good as a quarterback. It's difficult to come in as a high school kid and play quarterback at this level. I mean, even though he's made a bunch of mistakes, but he's what we hope that he will be as of now. Elijah's done well. The wideouts, dribbling, those guys, several of those guys have done well. I'm hoping that this group of wideouts can give us what we had several years ago as a group. And that way we can stay healthy, because we've not been healthy at wideout for 3 years. Defensively, our big guys, Oates and Kirkland inside, are coming along. Coach Glass will have them, April, May, June, July, August. So 6 more months he'll have them, and I think he'll really change their bodies. Even our veteran guys that are on the edge. Justin's done good. They're all giving really good effort. They're competitive, and they're developing physicality. So you're way too young. He's got a little bit of the Raleigh fingers deal going, just a little bit. You know what I'm saying? You know who he is?
Yes, sir.
If you would grow it out and roll it a little bit, that would be like the bomb.
Well, I mean, it could be as good as
he's got a little bit of the curly hair and that. He was dark-headed, but guy's a good pitcher.
I've heard the.
Well, you need to Google him. You're good at that, I'm sure. Google him and look him up. You'll see what I'm talking about. You're about that far away from being able to roll it up pretty good.
Well, I got to keep
and I
it
meant
short.
mustache, not roll it up the other. Yeah, I like it.
How important are the assistant coaches that, during spring, especially when you have so many new guys that you can't watch them all, you can't be everywhere?
They have to develop their position and their players, their new guys. There's no way I can do it. I'm literally still trying to figure out who's who and face-wise. And out here, numbers-wise, because they change their numbers. So it's got to be them handling their position and that enthusiasm and developing those relationships. But also, accountability is important, the discipline, the structure. We're not in the business to coddle kids. We're in the business to coach them and teach them. And they have to handle that by position. So they're very important. They're responsible for the enthusiasm and all the different things that matter with their position.
And then how important does it, to have continuity on the coaching staff? I mean, pretty much most everybody's back from last year.
Yeah, that doesn't really, that's been good here for a long time because very seldom we ever lose a coach. So that's a bonus that we have. Most of the things that we can do, we don't even really have to talk about them. We kind of know unless there's a change or an adjustment, like practicing on Saturdays this spring. We're going to practice on Mondays this fall instead of Sundays. So there'll be some changes adjustments we'll make, but most of them, they really know each other really well.
Mike, I think this is year 3 or 4 that Tay's been with you as quarterback coach, splitting the quarterback coach, offensive coordinator duties.
Right.
How's that worked out for you? How do you feel like that's gone in terms of working with quarterbacks, picking a quarterback, all those things?
He's been really good. Tim is, his dad was a coach, non-recruited really, went to JUCO in California, not really recruited out of JUCO, went to La Tech, and then hung around the NFL for 6-7 years, something like that. So he's got a lot of experience with that particular position, with the quarterback position. And he's done a good job, in my opinion, of recruiting guys that we think fit what we're trying to get accomplished, who are good players, and then hanging on to them. It wasn't easy to hang on to Zane last year, based on with all the NIL stuff going on. So he's been a really good addition for us. He and Casey work really well together in the passing game, and I'm pleased that with what he's done and how he's gone about his business here.
Going back to Kendall Daniels, from what I can tell, that position that he's going to be in, you got to be a guy that can make plays in the box and also deep. That seemed to be a strength.
Yeah, it needs to be a 200-pounder to 215-pounder that has good vision, that sees things, because he's a run fit guy. He's a secondary run fit guy. So it's like in basketball, if you're playing man to man and the guy gets beat and he drives to the goal, then the big guy close is going to step in and stop him. That's kind of what he's doing in the run game. And then in the pass game, he has to react, get depth, get width, and knock everything down in the middle of the field.
I think you had talked last season about it was just getting him more reps, and then later in the season, it kind of seemed like he found his stride. What did you see from him throughout those last few games?
No, that's right. That's exactly what happened. He was a young guy just trying to figure it out. And then he started getting more comfortable. But we saw him violently tackle in the box 2 or 3 yards off the line or behind the line. And he should be able to do that. I mean, we can sit and talk all we want, but he's got a body that you and I don't have. So he can take that as long as he wants. If he continues to play physical, and he already has a gift of he's really rangy and he's long and he sees the ball. So, he's got safety written all over him for the next 12 years if he'll follow through on it, which so far he seems to be getting better.
Mike, what about Zane stands out to you at this point in the spring?
It's too early for anything other than he's very athletic. He's going to be 220-ish maybe, 215, I don't know. But he's 6'3", and he's athletic and can run well and he moves well, and his arm will develop and all those things. So he's kind of what we thought he was, and he's surviving out here in team functions, which is not easy to do when you're a high school kid.
How about Talon Shetron? Do you like where he's at?
Yeah, he's doing good. Yeah, I mentioned a couple weeks ago that he needs to, because of his injury, he hadn't gotten physical enough to compete at this level. But he's got all the tools. So he's in the same boat. Bray went through it from an injury standpoint, played more. Shetron needs to develop more physicality, where he can compete at this level and push through the October and November part of the Big 12. So he needs to, once he accepts the physicality side of it, all the other stuff for him is going to be fine.
What about his brother too? His brother's reshaped his body, and
he's got a more difficult situation because he's playing in the box. So, but he's coming along. And back in the day, guys that played in the box, offense and defensively, nobody even talked about him for 2 years. They came in, they redshirted, they went to scout team. Next year, they're a redshirt freshman, might still be on scout team or getting a few reps. So he's developing and pushing himself and changing his body and getting some work. But he's in a little different world until he develops.
Does the new going fullbacks with tight ends that help him too?
Yeah, depending on how he develops, he could be a tight end or he could be a fullback. We'll just watch and see.
Your new wide receivers, Arland and Dijon, do you have any comparisons to them now at this point, from previous receivers? Or?
Arland's a lot like what we have with JP. He's shifty, good hands, physical, very similar. Anybody else? No, probably not. But he would be the best illustration of kind of plays that role. And it was interesting when he left, we started looking for a guy. That's what we thought he was, and we brought him in, and that's kind of what we think he is. So
we've talked a lot about some transfers and some new guys. But who are some guys within the program that through the extra bowl practices in the first week or two of spring ball that you really like the progression?
Well, the young offensive linemen, all the practices they got in the bowl helped them. And, most of them are on twos now and stuff, but those plays, really helped develop them, okay? And then defensively, the young linebackers that we mentioned earlier and the young safeties, Ty and Nick and Jeff and some of those guys, those practices really helped them.
How was Leon Johnson adapting to
doing
the
good?
Level?
He's doing fine. It's like all the rest of them. He's getting reps and developing, learning the system. All that seems to be coming along. Now just, play at this level and see where you're at.